Have you ever stopped to think about how your brain, your skin, and even your ability to see and hear all came from the exact same starting material? Today, we're going to trace the absolutely incredible journey of one of the body's master architects, a simple sheet of cells called the ectoderm. I mean, really, how is that even possible? How does this one single layer of cells manage to build our most complicated systems? Well, that's the story we're going to unravel right now. So this is it. This is our main character. You see, really early in development, the embryo sorts itself into three core layers, and the ectoderm is the one on the very top. It is literally the blueprint for everything that lets us interact with the world around us, from our deepest thoughts to the feeling of touch on our skin. But before the ectoderm can build anything, it has to get built itself. So our story really kicks off at the very, very beginning, with a process that sets the stage for everything else. Okay, so it all starts with this simple two-layer disc. Then, during a process called gastrulation, cells from that top layer, the epiblast, start to move. They dive down through this little groove called the primitive streak, and they form two brand new layers underneath, the endoderm and the mesoderm. So what about the epiblast cells that stayed put, the ones left on top? Well, congratulations, they just became our new top layer, the ectoderm. So now we have our three layers. Right after they're set, this other structure, the notochord, forms right underneath the ectoderm, and it basically acts like a construction foreman. It starts sending out chemical signals, shouting up at the ectoderm directly above it, telling it to thicken up. That signal is the green light for the whole next phase of development. And that phase is called neurulation. This is where things get really wild. It's this incredible process where the ectoderm literally folds in on itself to create the foundation of our brain and our spinal cord. You can think of it like cellular origami. It's amazing. First, that thickening creates something called the neural plate. Then, the middle of the plate starts to sink down, making a groove. The edges of that groove then lift up, they move towards each other, and eventually they kiss and fuse together, sealing off a hollow tube that then detaches and sinks down. And that structure, the neural tube, is the direct precursor to our entire central nervous system. Now, right at that moment of fusion, something else incredible happens. There's this special group of cells right at the edges of those folds, and they don't get sealed into the tube. Instead, they gush over the edges, and suddenly they're free to roam. These are the neural crest cells, and their journey is going to take them all over the body to do some pretty amazing things. Okay, so let's pause. We've just made two major players from the ectoderm, that neural tube and those wandering neural crest cells. So first, let's follow the neural tube and see what it becomes. The destiny of the neural tube is, well, it's profound. It gives rise to our entire central nervous system. And we're not just talking about the brain and spinal cord. It also makes key support cells like astrocytes and oligodendrocytes. And get this, it even forms parts of glands like the posterior pituitary and the pineal gland, and the retina at the very back of our eye. This one simple tube becomes our body's central command center. All right, now let's get back to those cells that gushed over the side, the neural crest cells. If the neural tube is the command center, these guys are like the highly specialized field agents, sent out on all sorts of different missions throughout the body. These cells are famous for being the ultimate multitaskers. They migrate all over the place and form a truly astonishing variety of different tissues. So how on earth do we remember what they all do? Well, luckily, there's a handy mnemonic: crest cell. Let's break down the first word, crest. C is for chromaffin cells in our adrenal glands. They're the ones pumping out adrenaline. R is for rostral tissues. Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but it stands for a lot of the bones and connective tissues in your head. E is for the enteric nervous system, which is basically the brain in your gut. S is a 2-for-1, satellite and Schwann cells, which support our peripheral nerves. And T is for the tissues of the peripheral nervous system itself. Now, for the second word, cell. The C also stands for parts of our cardiovascular system, like carotid bodies that sense oxygen in our blood. E, and this one's another fun stretch, is for everything that gives skin its color, the melanocytes. And L is for leptomeninges, those delicate inner layers that wrap around and protect our brain. It is an absolutely incredible list, right? It just shows how far these little cells travel. So let's just put this side by side for a second. It's so cool. From the exact same starting material, the ectoderm, you get two totally different strategies. The neural tube stays put, it stays central, it builds the command center. Meanwhile, the neural crest cells become these roving field agents, spreading out all over the body on their own specialized missions. But wait, what about all the ectoderm that wasn't used for the neural tube or the crest cells? The stuff kind of left behind? Well, don't worry. It has its own incredibly important job, creating our entire interface with the outside world. So certain spots on this leftover surface ectoderm thicken up into these specialized patches called placodes. You can think of them as little dedicated construction zones for our most important senses. And what they become directly gives us our senses. The olfactory placode, that becomes the tissue that lets us smell. The lens placode literally pinches off to form the lens of our eye, super critical for vision. And the otic placode folds inward to build the complex little structures of our inner ear, giving us both hearing and our sense of balance. Amazing. And finally, the huge sheet of ectoderm that's left over becomes, well, our surface. This is what makes the epidermis, that outer protective layer of our skin. And from that, we get everything else. Our hair, our nails, our sweat glands. It even lines the openings of our body, like our mouth and nose. And it gives us the hard enamel on our teeth. But it's not done. The surface ectoderm has one final, absolutely astonishing trick up its sleeve. High up from the roof of the developing mouth, a little pouch of this ectoderm starts to bud off and travel upwards. What on earth could this random little structure become? Get this, that little pouch, called Rathke's pouch, becomes the anterior pituitary gland. That's the master gland that controls so many of our body's hormones. It's just a wild connection. The same layer of cells that gives us our skin and hair also builds one of the most critical parts of our endocrine system. So let's just recap the whole journey. From one single sheet of cells, the ectoderm, our body builds its central command, its entire peripheral network, all of our sensory organs, our protective outer shell, and even a master regulatory gland. It's just an incredible testament to how efficient and versatile development really is. When you really think about it, the ectoderm is the architect of our consciousness, our ability to perceive and interact with reality itself. It's just a powerful reminder of these elegant, complex processes that build us from the ground up. It really makes you wonder, what other incredible blueprints like this are hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to understand them?